Hey everyone, how's it going? So a little while ago, I played a mod of Pokemon Blue where I tried to beat the Elite Four with only level 5 Pokemon. Now, the mod was that my Pokemon didn't gain any experience points in battle so that they could stay level 5. A lot of people wanted to know if I could beat the entire game this way, and rather than play Red and Blue, which at this point we're kinda used to, I thought I'd take it up a notch and try to defeat Pokemon Crystal, a far more difficult game where I cannot gain any experience points in battle. Therefore, the only way I can quote-unquote gain levels is either by catching new Pokemon or the few rare candies that are available in the world. Can we try to piece together a team or teams to take on the 16 gym leaders and defeat the Elite Four and Red? Only one way to find out. Let's go. Now, because we can't gain experience points, what starter we pick doesn't matter too much, but Totodile is probably the best at level 5, so I'm going to pick it because we're going to need it for the first couple battles. I then need to catch some Pokemon that'll hopefully help me versus Falkner. The first is a level 5 Hoot. It's not going to be that important, but what will be important is a level 5 Ghastly, just because Ghastly, as being a ghost type, is immune to normal moves, and a lot of Pokemon in the early game only use normal moves. So having that swap in is super useful. Even if it's just at level 5, it also does start with Hypnosis, which can help me set up, which will be super useful. However, for defeating Falkner, the most important Pokemon might be one you'd be surprised by. It's a Bellsprout. Now, why would Bellsprout be useful for defeating a flying type gym leader? Well, those of you who've played Gold, Silver, and Crystal a bunch know there is an in-game trade where you can trade Bellsprout and you get a Pokemon back of the same level, the Pokemon being Rocky the Onix. But just in case you think, oh, that's going to make Falkner easy, Birdkeeper Abe with his level 9 Spearow has something to say about that. We use one Screech, and we try to use more. Unfortunately, Screech has a pretty high chance of missing, and we actually are going to lose our Onix to Spearow. Now, this doesn't really matter because we don't gain experience points anyway. So here's where Totodile, being a decent Pokemon, really helps out here. We don't really have to worry about experience points efficiency, as I like to call it, but we do need to actually win. Thankfully, I think with some creative maneuvering, we can beat Falkner, but here's what we're going to have to do. Now, I apologize because this could go by really fast, but here's what's going on here. Falkner's Pidgey has 2 moves, Mudslap and Tackle. Mudslap has 10 power points, and we need to waste all of them, which is why we lead off with Ghastly and switch to Hoot, and after we've done that 10 times, all the Mudslaps will be gone. The one thing I'll say here is that it's very important I keep count, because if I mess up just a little bit, Mudslap can do significant damage to Ghastly or even knock it out, which would be quite bad. But eventually, the Pidgey does run out of Mudslap, and then I can put it to sleep, and that makes it a lot safer to swap in Rocky and knock it out. Now, most likely, Onix will take some damage here, but we've equipped Berry on all our Pokemon. We're not allowed to use the items menu, but held items, those are A-okay. So that should help us out immensely. Now, Falkner sends out Pidgeotto. I'm going to swap in Hoot, and now I'm going to use Growl. Gust is going to knock it out, but now it has slightly lower attack. I'm going to swap back in Rocky, and I'm going to go for Screech. Unfortunately, it's got a 15% chance of missing without Mudslap. After Mudslap, it misses, but I am able to hit one. And then on the next turn, another one. I think of swapping out Rocky, but it's not worth it. I'm just going to allow it to faint, and now it's up to Totodile. The idea here is to use Scratch. Gust is doing a lot, but I do have a Berry. One more hit and we're going to knock it out. No! There's nothing I can do now because Ghastly can't hit Pidgeotto. My own strategy used against me. Unfortunate, but at least you can see what we're going to do. Now, as we get past the Pidgey again, I should mention the strategy is by no means free. Of course, we can miss with Screech. Of course, critical hits can happen. I did lose 3 more attempts before this one. It's not too big a deal. I mean, it is annoying. Thankfully, Mudslap only has 10 power points. If it had like 20 or 30, this would be a lot more tedious a battle. But eventually, we'll be able to put Pidgey to sleep, swap in Rocky, and by the time we knock out Pidgey, we're actually at 17 HP, the best we've ever been, which is pretty good. So, I am going to switch to Hoot. I'm going to use Growl. Gust doesn't crit, which is nice. Now, unfortunately, I was swapping things around and forgot to give Hoot Hoot a berry. If it had one, that would have been super nice because we could use the second Growl. In the end, it isn't going to matter. Spoiler alert. We are going to hit with Screech a couple times, but we're also going to miss 3 times. I actually thought we'd have to reset because we're going to need at least 2 Screeches. Thankfully, Onix is able to get that clutch second Screech, and Totodile, who I didn't think would really matter, ends up being the Pokemon to defeat Falkner. Now, in reality, I probably should have just caught a Pidgey or Rattata of my own, and then I would have had 1 extra Pokemon and we could have defeated Falkner. But I was very proud of this strategy, and it did work. So that's 1 gym badge, but we have many, many more gym badges to go. Now, we're going to head to Azalea and try to defeat Bugsy. But if you've played these games recently, you know that there really aren't any high-level Pokemon available in the wild. And it's not like we're going to learn any new moves with Onix. We don't get Rock Throw. So how in the world are we going to defeat Bugsy's level 16 Scyther? With Onix? Well, not Rocky. We're going to have to catch another Onix. This run, by the way, is not a Nuzlocke. We can just try to catch the highest level possible. And that means in the basement of Union Cave, we're going to catch a level 8 Onix. Still half the level of Scyther, but better than our level 5 Rocky. Is that going to be enough to defeat Bugsy? Well, against Metapod, Ghastly cannot take any damage. So we can use Hypnosis, and although we could just leave Ghastly in, I'm going to send out Wooper, and it's just a little bit faster to go for Water Gun. Technically, this is not the most efficient play. You can catch a level 8 Wooper, by the way, in Crystal version, so that's pretty useful. Shout out to Small Ant. But Wooper is going to take us through both the Metapod and the Kakuna. Probably would be best just to use Ghastly for these two, but trust me, you'll see what happens when I use Lick. It takes a really, really long time. And at this point, I just kind of want to see what Scyther's going to do. I've also caught a level 8 Rattata. It doesn't necessarily have the best IVs, but that's okay. It knows Quick Attack, and that's what's important. It also doesn't have Guts, because that's not a thing. But what I wanted to know is how much damage would Scyther do? It one-shots Rattata with Quick Attack. Ghastly, it goes for Leer. And then Fury Cutter doesn't do all that much, so I can put it to sleep. Not in this battle, but we'll try that again. This time, Wooper takes Kakuna down to a sliver of HP, so I can send in Rattata, Quick Attack. Now Bugsy's going to go for Quick Attack. I can swap in Ghastly, and I can try to put it to sleep, which I am successful. So now what I want to do is I want to send in Onix, and I want to hit Screech a bunch of times. Unfortunately, Fury Cutter is not resisted by Onix, and it's hit enough times that my only real hope is that it gets a miss. I don't get one versus Togepi, but when Zubat gets swapped in, that's what happens. And now the goal is to have it hit itself in confusion. Unfortunately, it's a 50-50 chance, and it just isn't happening for me. I can use Lick, and I can put it to sleep, so there are options available to me, but it's really luck-based. And if anything goes wrong, we lose. The most important thing is for Zubat not to faint. It's the only thing that can really damage Scyther. And finally, after what feels like forever, Scyther actually hits itself in confusion, and look how much damage that did. One more and we win. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be happening, but I am hitting with Lick. It's paralyzed now, and I think we can actually win. Ghastly's got it down to like 1 HP, and we beat Scyther with a level 8 Zubat. That's not bad at all. So level 8 Zubat, level 8 Rattata, level 8 Wooper, a Togepi that didn't do anything, and a level 8 Onix. What an interesting team. But unfortunately for me, I neglected to go into Ilex Forest before I did Slowpoke well. I didn't realize that you can just go into the forest without battling Rival 2, because there are Pokemon there that may have helped me. This team, on the other hand, isn't very good against a Ghastly, Zubat, and Bayleaf, so let me show you what the battles kind of looked like. So he leads with Ghastly, so I lead with Rattata. Now the reason for this is Rattata can't actually get damaged by Ghastly, what Ghastly does is that it'll put Rattata to sleep and then use Spite. So I really want to avoid using Mud Slap until it's done using Spite, because otherwise I won't have any left, which would suck. Unfortunately, I don't wait long enough, and so I pretty much have run out of Mud Slaps. Thankfully, due to them, I'm actually able to knock out Ghastly, but that's going to be a problem in the future. Zubat then just completely destroys Rattata. I try to send in my own level 8 Zubat, but I can't hit with Supersonic, and Bite knocks me out. It can flinch, and it does special damage, so Onix isn't going to be much help. Wooper, well, it tanks it better than my other Pokemon and actually deals damage, but yeah, this is not going to be very good. I mean, I'm not even close. So what are we going to do here? Well, I try again because why not, and I do make it farther this time, so I'm just going to skip past the Ghastly part. You already know what I'm going to do here. Now, against Zubat, the whole key to this is to get as much damage off as possible. It's funny because I actually used the worst strategy imaginable. I swap in Togepi by accident and then I just let it faint. But by lowering Zubat's attack, my strategy is going to end up being Supersonic. But since its attack is lowered, it doesn't deal as much damage. And yet, due to good luck, I'm actually able to knock it out with Rattata. But the reason I'm showing this battle is Bayleaf uses Razor Leaf, which has a higher critical hit chance. And so we're definitely going to need to use Zubat, but a critical hit Razor Leaf does over half to Zubat, which double resists it. So even the Pokemon you thought might have been easy just destroyed the rest of my team. But we can see what the strategy is going to be. It's time to put it all together. So we lead with Rattata, we go for Tail Whip because of Spite. We're just going to skip ahead this part. We already know what's going to happen here. We're going to knock out Ghastly eventually, and then make it to Zubat. So I'm just going to use Quick Attack against Zubat. I have Berry, so I can use a little bit more of Quick Attack. I get confused, and that's when I swap to Wooper. Wooper can get off a single Water Gun if it doesn't hit itself in Confusion, which it doesn't. And unfortunately, Bite flinches, so that's all it can do. I'm then going to try and use Screech. I do get flinched, but Supersonic misses, so I'm able to get off 2 Screeches. And now you can see Quick Attack knocks out Zubat. Now we have Bayleaf. It knocks out Rattata, but Zubat can potentially Supersonic and try to heal all the HP I lost back with Leech Life. If Bayleaf doesn't get a bunch of crits, which it just did, we might be able to win. We do have a Berry left. It used Growl, which sucks, but we should still deal at least 4 damage, which is nice. It's getting pretty good luck with the crits, but it didn't get one when it needed it most, and so on 7 HP, with a level 8 Zubat, I knock out a level 16 Bayleaf, and we open up a pretty huge section of the game, and get to fight someone who is traditionally known as one of the most difficult gym leaders for casual players, Whitney. One of the reasons I chose Gold, Silver, and Crystal for this challenge is that wild Pokemon are really, really weak, making this challenge really, really tough. But there is a Pokemon that can help us in the game corner for 1,500 coins, and it did take me over an hour to get the necessary coins, and I am playing sped up, so around 5 hours, 4 to 5 hours of real time. Introducing Wobbuffet. By catching a level 10 Abra, I could trade it in the mart for a Machop, and Machop can use Low Kick to try and knock out Clefairy. It's a level 10 Machop with not great attack IVs, but it worked well enough. Now, against Miltank, I just let Machop faint, and now it's time for Wobbuffet. I'm going to go for counter, it went for rollout, and thankfully, I have more than enough HP, so if you predicted that Wobbuffet would play a critical role in this run, congratulations. For the rest of you, I hope you enjoyed that gym battle, because this is the type of thinking we're going to need if we're going to beat this game. Now, against Morty, Wobbuffet actually can't do all that much, because his Pokemon just use physical moves and counter is classified as a fighting move. So we're going to need a different strategy. In Crystal, there is a mandatory battle against Rival 3, but we can catch a Raticate on either routes 38 or 39 at level 16, and it's going to help us one-shot Haunter with Dig, which we get in National Park. Magnemite also is weak to Dig. Unfortunately, Curse is slowly taking away our HP. For Zubat, I use Hyper Fang and I get a clutch critical hit, and then I don't knock out Bayleaf. It goes for Reflect, which is annoying, but our good pal Wobbuffet can use Mirror Coat and knock out Bayleaf after it uses Razor Leaf, so it looks like things are finally starting to pick up. On that note, it actually wasn't too difficult to defeat Morty. We lead with that Raticate, and just like against the rival, we can use Dig in order to knock out the Ghastly, although it does have to actually use Curse first, so I'm going to swap into Pidgeotto, which you can also catch on 38 or 39, and if I swap back and forth, it puts Pidgeotto to sleep, it has to use Curse twice, and I knock it out with Gust, which is pretty lucky. Now out comes Gengar, and I'm going to switch into my Machop. I'm going to use Leer just to lower its defense, but it hits me with Shadow Ball, so I don't have an opportunity. It then starts missing with Hypnosis, not once, not twice. I swap into Sudowoodo just because I don't want to lose Raticate. It misses a third time, and then a fourth time, and then a fifth time. So what are the odds of that, you might ask? Anyway, I knock out Haunter with Sudowoodo as it goes for Nightshade. Well, I'll tell you what the odds of that were. Basically, 1%. It's a 40% miss chance, 5 times in a row. That is a 1% chance. Now, ideally, we would have a Mint Berry, so it wouldn't be such a big deal, and we would swap until it ran out of Dream Eaters. So that was what I was going to do, but I got really lucky and didn't have to do that, so we can move on to what I usually consider the more difficult gyms. And in this run, it's kind of especially true, because around Chuck, Jasmine, and Price, there really aren't super high-level Pokemon, and yet their Pokemon are a lot stronger, especially Jasmine's Steelix and Chuck's Poliwrath. There is one Pokemon, though, that can help us a lot. A Pokemon that, like Sudowoodo, we have to encounter, and is at a pretty decent level. That Pokemon is Red Gyarados. It has pretty good stats, it's shiny, and it's most importantly, level 30, which should be good enough, and its water flying type make it a perfect counter to Poliwrath and Steelix. Additionally, when you beat the Rocket Hideout, you have to knock out all the Electrode, or you could catch them. They're only at level 23, but considering I'm still using Totodile in some battles, they definitely serve as an improvement. Now, since we're already in Mahogany Town, I'm going to go battle Price. He typically is the easiest of the gym leaders, even though he's technically supposed to be the 7th gym leader, which is kind of funny. So Price leads off with Seal, a water Pokemon. We're going to go for Thrash. We almost knock it out. Unfortunately, the way Thrash works is that it lasts between 2 to 3 turns, and then we're confused. So I'm going to have to swap in Raticate in order to get rid of that confusion, use Thrash again to knock out Dugong, and thankfully we get a clutch Blizzard Mist from Piloswine. I decide not to switch out and to try and knock it out with Surf, but unfortunately we hit ourselves twice in confusion, and then Piloswine knocks us out. It then hits Sudowoodo with Blizzard. I should have gone for Destiny Bond, but I went for Mirror Coat, and it did knock me out. Electrode now comes out. I go for Self-Destruct. It only does half damage, and now I'm stuck with the Magnemite at level 16. I try to knock it out with Sonic Boom, but it just wouldn't work. Turns out Price wasn't going to be as easy as I thought. I changed things up a little bit, going for Leer before I go for Thrash. This way, there's a chance I can knock out Dugong before I get confused, which isn't what happens. I decide to risk it and just go for Thrash anyway. I don't hit myself in confusion and knock out Dugong. I'm locked into Thrash, so I can't switch out, but thankfully, I am eventually going to snap out of confusion. Unfortunately, Piloswine hits me with Blizzard a few times, and so while I get it to low health, Price is just going to heal with Hyper Potion, and so I can swap in Sudowoodo and get a little damage with Low Kick, but it's going to knock it out with Blizzard. Doesn't have many remaining. I'm going to go for Dig and try to waste some more Blizzard. I think it's out. So I can swap in Magnemite here, see if it's out of Blizzard. It is. I go for Supersonic. It goes for Fury Attack. Sonic Boom does 20 damage. It knocks me out with Icy Wind. I'm now going to go for Sonic Boom. It uses Icy Wind. I go for Self-Destruct. And maybe not the prettiest victory, but we have one Pokemon remaining, so it is a victory nonetheless. Something you can't do in a solo run, But with a team, you can use self-destruct. And turns out that Electrode was pretty darn useful. But now we have to battle the gym leaders I actually was worried about. I decide to battle Chuck next. He leads with Primeape. I actually forgot to heal. Thrash doesn't knock out Primeape right away, but it goes for Leer, so I'm able to knock it out. I decide to stick with Thrash, but I hit myself in Confusion. Poliwrath goes for Mind Reader, then Dynamic punches Totodile at full odds. Gyarados swaps back in. I'm hoping Thrash will knock it out. It doesn't. And unfortunately, I'm now confused. I hit myself in Confusion, and this Poliwrath is doing a really good job with Dynamic Punch. But thankfully, I've weakened Poliwrath to the point where I can swap an Electrode. It's pretty fast. I don't even need to use Self-Destruct. I can just use Sonic Boom, knock it out, and we have a first try victory against Chuck. Not too bad. Now, I wish I had a good ground Pokemon to use, but I don't. So I have to use a level 16 Raticate, which does outspeed Magnemite, but it can't one-shot with Dig, so it gets knocked out by Thunderbolt. I can actually use Gyarados' Surf to knock out the first Magnemite, but now there's a second Magnemite, and Surf doesn't quite knock it out. So I'm going to have to try something a little different, because we absolutely need Gyarados for Steelix. I'm going to try Sudowoodo with Low Kick, but Magnemite just one-shots it, so that didn't work. I can hope for a critical hit with Dig. I don't get it, so I'm not sure what to do. I try to use Wobbuffet, but it's too underleveled and Thunderbolt one-shots. We don't have much left. I can try to use Electrode and Sonic Boom. It's going to knock it out with one more hit. Magnemite actually goes for Supersonic as well. We don't hit ourselves in Confusion, but we miss with Sonic Boom. Then we hit ourselves in Confusion. Then Magnemite hits us with Thunderbolt. But at 4 HP remaining, we knock out Magnemite. We have no HP left, so I'm just going to go for Self-Destruct, which does more than Sonic Boom, which deals 20 HP of damage. Hopefully now Gyarados can knock it out with Surf. It does. And now out comes Steelix. I use Surf, and I get that critical hit I was looking for. It wouldn't matter either way. Unfortunately, out of habit, I reset my game, because sometimes I don't like when I get good luck, but this one was fine. It just means I had to battle Jasmine again, but nothing really all that different happens. In case, though, you'd want to see what would happen if we didn't get a critical hit, it's not all that exciting. Surf doesn't knock it out. It goes for Sunny Day, and then we knock it out anyway in a second hit. So, yeah, the crit really didn't matter, and I didn't actually mean to reset that. I was just thinking, oh no, a crit. I have to show off the real battle. And then if I didn't say that, someone would notice because it's hard to edit that out since it happened so quickly. But now we're actually done. We have to go and defeat Team Rocket, which isn't all that interesting. And there's no new Pokemon we can catch until Ice Cave. Then we can enter Blackthorn City and we can head to Route 45, where there are other really strong Pokemon. And we're going to need them in order to battle Claire. So what are the Pokemon we're going to use to defeat her Dragon Pokemon and eventually her very powerful Kingdra? Well, in Ice Cave, although it's not very likely to get, you can catch a Jinx. And Jinx does know Ice Punch, which is helpful against Dragonair. The question I'm sure you're wondering is it going to be enough? Well, let's see. Claire leads off with a level 37 Dragonair. Ice Punch doesn't one-shot, but we get a lucky freeze, so we can knock out the first one. But then out comes Kingdra. Surf almost knocks me out. I actually thought it was going to. I reset anyway because of the lucky freeze, and we're going to do that a few more times. The biggest reason I reset a bunch is I'm kind of trying to figure out my strategy here. See what happens, see what item I could use. The one time I actually don't knock out the Dragonair right away, it goes for Thunder Wave, which isn't the end of the world, but it is something to think about. So now I'm ready for a real attempt against Claire. I use Ice Punch, it doesn't knock it out. I have the Paralysis Cure Berry, so I do knock out the first Dragonair. I then swap into Gyarados. Surf is resisted. I go for Thrash, it goes for Dragon Breath first, and I'm able to get off 2 Thrashes. It goes for Hyper Beam, which is excellent because although I don't have an electric move, I can use Self-Destruct from Electrode to almost knock out Kingdra. It needs to recharge, and I do knock it out with Jinx. The next Dragonair comes out. Its Thunder Wave misses. It's a 1 in 4 chance for that. Dragonair number 3 comes out. It does hit with Thunder Wave, goes for Slam. Unfortunately, I'm paralyzed not once, but twice. It knocks me out with Slam. I have a Donphan, and thankfully Donphan tanks Ice Beam and knocks out Dragonair with Strength. What a ridiculous battle, but although it's not a first try victory, it feels like one because it was the first time I used the Paralysis Cure Berry and had a solid idea of what I was going to do. That is 8 gym badges, and of course, we caught the Donphan on Route 45 just in case. I learned from Falkner, more Pokemon equals good. This Gyarados, by the way, has hard carried us through the back half of Johto, but unfortunately, as we head to the Elite Four, it's not going to be enough. It just simply isn't a high enough level anymore to compete with level 40 and eventually level 50 Pokemon. Will prove to be unbelievably difficult. His Pokemon, they confuse you, and I have Bitterberry, but even though Sneasel has pretty good attack, Shadow Ball is not same type, so it takes 3 hits to knock out the first Xatu. I do have Jinx. It's not the exact same Jinx I used in the other battle, but it's still a pretty good Jinx, and it can knock out Xatu, but it itself immediately gets knocked out by Will's Jinx. So things are pretty bad. I get a run where Sneasel actually knocks out Xatu on its own, but then Slowbro just knocks it out, and there's not much I can really do to Slowbro. Jinx can put it to sleep, but then I'm kind of stuck. You see, my team, it just doesn't really have a lot of options for Will. We have a Rhydon from Victory Road, we have a Tentacruel from just outside Victory Road, we have a Sneasel from Ice Cave, a Jinx from Ice Cave, and we're still relying on Red Gyarados, and we're not really making any progress. And it's not like I can just level up because we don't gain any experience points. So is this where the run ends? We can't beat Will? Not exactly. So we lead with Jinx instead of Sneasel, and we go for Lovely Kiss. We have the Bitterberry because Xatu likes to confuse me. Ice Punch is a 2-hit KO, and we do knock out Xatu, which is pretty good. Next comes out Will's Jinx. We try to put it to sleep, and thankfully we do. We can then switch in Sneasel, which has a very good matchup against Jinx. It doesn't outspeed, but Jinx misses with Lovely Kiss, and we can knock it out with Sneasel. Now we go for Screech, Slowbro goes for Amnesia, but Shadow Ball will now be a 3-hit KO. Slowbro does knock us out, but we can switch now to something else, like Red Gyarados, and we can go for Thrash, knock out Slowbro. Psychic does a lot, but Thrash does do a little bit of damage to Xatu. Surprisingly, Tentacruel comes out next. Psychic doesn't one-shot because of its excellent special defense, and we hit with Sludge Bomb and get a poison. Now we send out Rhydon. It knows Stomp. Psychic almost knocks it out, but I survive on just 1 HP. Knock out Xatu. Executor knocks me out. And now we have Jinx. We need to hit Lovely Kiss, which we do. And now Ice Punch is a 2-hit KO. And finally, after a ton of trial and error and 20 attempts, we've made it past Will, and you betcha we're going to save. I don't want to have to do that again. Now, the next trainer is Koga. We have a bit of a better matchup against Koga, but also not an amazing matchup. There's not a lot of type diversity here. Just like last time, I'm going to show you my first few attempts against Koga because it's good to see where we started and where we end up. I lead with Tentacruel. Ariados goes first for Double Team, then for Giga Drain, but we do knock it out. Venomoth comes out next, tries to go for Supersonic, and misses. Then it hits with Supersonic, I hit with Surf. It then goes for Psychic, which is what I was expecting, and it's able to knock me out. I can then send out either Graveler or Rhydon. I go for Graveler, I have Rollout. It does knock out Venomoth, but then comes out Fortress, which is actually the Pokemon I'm most worried about. I swap in Gyarados. Fortress uses spikes, you can't stack them in this game. Surf does barely anything. In fact, Fortress's Swift is doing more than Surf, and why I'm always nervous about it is because it eventually goes for Explosion. So we've lost Gyarados. I can use Magnitude against Muck, and Magnitude 8 actually almost knocks it out. Muck can't do much to me, although I am poisoned, and I'm able to knock it out with another magnitude. So Crobat, I just go for self-destruct, and I'm able to knock it out, and we won. We first try victoried. Koga, the new Bruno. Let's go. So that's pretty nice. Didn't expect that. And I mentioned Koga is the new Bruno, but it's time to battle the old Bruno. Gyarados is underleveled, but it has a pretty good matchup. Obviously, we're going to save because I don't want to see if that was a fluke. And let's keep going. All right, so in this generation, Bruno leads with Hitmontop. I lead with Gyarados. It goes for Quick Attack, and Surf doesn't do all that much. Thrash is doing more, but unfortunately, we are going to eventually get confused. We are able to first knock out the Hitmontop, and then the Hitmonchan comes out. I'm not going to swap because I don't see the reason. It knocks me out with Thunder Punch. I go for Surf with Tentacruel. Unfortunately, this time Thunder Punch crits. I don't think we're going to be able to... Oh, okay. Critical hit for me. So we do knock it out. Now comes out the Hitmonlee. I'm going to go for Surf. High Jump Kick misses. The recoil isn't nearly as bad in this generation, so it's at about 3/4 as it knocks me out. Now I've got a pretty tough call, because High Jump Kick doesn't one-shot Graveler. Interesting. Okay. Now comes out Onix, but we don't outspeed with Jinx. That's going to be a bit of a problem. Rhydon, I do have Earthquake, but it doesn't one-shot the Onix. Its Earthquake doesn't do a lot to me, but now Machamp can go for Cross Chop. It can miss, which it does once, twice, no way. It uses Max Potion. Okay, that's 3 though. It only has 1 left. Unfortunately, Sneasel is not the Pokemon I want in this situation because it is weak to both Cross Chop and its other move, Rock Slide. So that went okay. I think there's something to build off here, but it definitely would have been nice to get a first try victory. So I had to battle Bruno a few more times, but I figured out some stuff. We're going to lead with Rhydon because Hitmontop goes for Dig and Earthquake one-shots. Hitmonlee can't one-shot, so we're going to deal a bunch of damage. Rhydon's going to get knocked out. Then we're going to go for Detect, and High Jump Kick knocks out the Hitmonlee. Now Hitmonchan comes out. We're going to go for Tentacruel, and we're going to use Sludge Bomb, which does more than Surf. Poison is good. Getting crit is bad. We still do knock out the Hitmonchan, and Tentacruel outspeeds Onix. Now we just need to knock out Machamp. We get that poison, which is really, really good. Now we can send out Gyarados, but like I said, it does no Rock Slide. It one-shots Gyarados. We don't do very much to it. Dragon Rage would have been better, but after it misses with Cross Chop, we do hit with Self-Destruct. I had gotten to this point like 5 other times, and Cross Chop hit. Finally, I guess it was a 1 in 5 chance. It missed, and we were able to defeat Bruno. So a pretty decent strategy, not too different from my first attempt. Rhydon being used at the beginning, definitely a bit of a change. But so far, Will has been by far the most difficult member of the Elite Four. Karen can be pretty annoying in solo runs, but with a full team, her moves aren't as big a deal. Not sure how this is going to go. Let's see. So Karen leads with Umbreon. I'm just going to go for Sludge Bomb. Might as well. I get the poison early, which is good. I then hit with Wrap, meaning 3/16 of Umbreon's health is being deducted every turn. I can switch out once my accuracy gets low. It goes for Feint Attack, and although Wrap ends, I can use Detect and then Quick Attack to knock out Umbreon. Next comes out Houndoom. I don't really need Sneasel, so I'm just going to let it faint. It goes for Crunch. It does over half. Surf gets a crit, but still doesn't knock out Houndoom, and it knocks me out with Crunch. This could be bad. I send out Rhydon. It goes for Crunch, but it does knock out Rhydon. And I think it's going to knock out Graveler too. So we're going to need to figure out something for Houndoom. And I might have an idea. The Quick Claw activates 20% of the time. We're on the 4th Elite Four member. If we have to use Quick Claw, wouldn't be the worst thing in the universe. Obviously, this is going to take a little while because we're relying on a bit of a luck-based strategy. We get the poison turn 1 once again. This time Wrap misses, which is okay. It misses a second time. It misses a third time. And I'm just going to keep Tentacruel in. Try to knock out Umbreon. I go for Surf and I do knock it out. Next comes out Vileplume. I can get a bit of damage with Sludge Bomb, and then Tentacruel has done its job. Now I can put Vileplume to sleep because Jinx outspeeds. And now that it's asleep, 2 Ice Punches knock it out. Next comes out Houndoom. Just going to let Jinx faint. Now we need Quick Claw. Rhydon outspeeds. There we go. 20% chance of that. I'm going to use Stomp. Murkrow's Feint Attack does a lot of damage. And in fact, I'm going to swap out. It's going to use Feint Attack against Sneasel. I'm just going to go for Screech. And it didn't end up working. That's not a big deal. Gyarados should be able to take out Murkrow. It goes for Feint Attack a couple times, but 2 Thrashes knock it out. And now we have Gengar. I'm going to swap into Graveler. Gengar goes for Lick. It paralyzes Graveler. I go for Magnitude 7, not quite knocking it out. Magnitude 4 doesn't knock it out, but thankfully I'm not paralyzed. Another Magnitude 7, and that went exceptionally well. We still had 3 Pokemon remaining, but now is where things are going to get really tough. We do have an Ice Pokemon, but it's basically half the level of most of Lance's Pokemon. I don't quite know what we're going to do here, but we don't really have anywhere else to go, so we're just going to have to battle a bunch of times and see what strategies will work, but this one could take a really long time. I'm going to lead with Jinx, see if I outspeed Gyarados, and we don't. Hyper Beam misses so I can put it to sleep, but yeah, it's not a great strategy. I'm now going to try to go for Rollout. Unfortunately, I miss. I'm able to hit the second turn with a critical hit. Gyarados stays asleep, and another critical hit. Now out comes Dragonite. It's probably the one that uses Blizzard. It is, and it hits. That's unfortunate. So I'm going to send out Jinx, see if we outspeed. We don't. Unsurprising, Hyper Beam knocks me out. So I do have an extra turn here, but I can go for Scary Face. Unfortunately, it's not enough for Rhydon to outspeed, and Blizzard knocks me out. Sneasel is Ice type, and I do outspeed, but that's about all that happens. I can send out Tentacruel. I haven't taught Icy Wind, although I could. And yeah, this isn't going to work. So what in the world are we going to do with these underleveled Pokemon? The answer is manipulate the AI. So I lead with my Gyarados because that means Lance's Gyarados is more likely to go for Hyper Beam since it does normal damage. If it goes for Hyper Beam, I can go for Self-Destruct, and that knocks out Gyarados. So we lose 2 Pokemon, Lance loses 1. Not a good ratio, but it's progress. Now out comes Lance's Dragonite, and I can switch in Rhydon. Now Lance's Dragonite is likely to go for Hyper Beam, and Rhydon doesn't take much damage, and while it's recharging, I can use Scary Face, then Tail Whip, and knock it out. How did I outspeed? Quick Claw. The honest truth is the Tail Whip was just me trying to waste a turn, because I need to put Dragonite to sleep, which I do, since Ice Punch is a 2-hit KO. Now out comes Charizard, and it's just going to knock out Jinx. I can send in Tentacruel. It uses Wing Attack. It's a 2-hit KO. Unfortunately, Surf doesn't knock it out. It goes for Hyper Beam. And now, Sneasel can do a little bit of damage, but that's about all we can do. It's definitely progress. We knocked out 2 of Lance's Pokemon, but there were 4 more to go. All we can do is keep battling, keep trying some new things. I lead with Sneasel. I'm actually trying once again to get Gyarados to use Hyper Beam, which it does. Now I can go for Jinx and put Gyarados to sleep. I can swap in Rhydon, who now knows Rollout. I had it in my inventory for the perfect moment, and with Quick Claw, I knock out Gyarados. I'm hoping for Quick Claw, but I actually get a Blizzard Miss. That knocks out Dragonite number 1, and Rollout knocks out Charizard. I would love to get another Rollout with Quick Claw, but I'm not going to be greedy. I go for Scary Face. Quick Claw doesn't activate, and now Dragonite is locked into Outrage, a special attacking move, but one that is likely to knock out pretty much anything I send out. It actually doesn't knock out Tentacruel right away. Maybe I should teach Icy Wind in the future, because that didn't really do much. It is confused now, and it hits itself in confusion, which is great. That means Jinx can put it to sleep, but Lance uses a full restore. That means another Outrage by Dragonite. I can send in Gyarados. There is a chance. Oh my gosh, I survived. And it hits itself in confusion. Okay. Now I can use Rollout. It hits itself. Oh my god. There's no way we win though, right? Hyper Beam has to recharge? No way. All right, so we lose here, right? No way! I can't believe it! We won? We won! That's a win! I can't believe that happened! What are the chances? Oh, wow! Okay, that happened way quicker than I was anticipating. Honestly, this is amazing. I can't believe we beat Lance, and I know a lot of people end the run right here, but nah, we're gonna have to defeat Red. And to do that, we have to defeat the 8 Kanto gyms. And although typically they're kind of easy, in this run, yes, they're lower level than the Elite Four, but there aren't a lot of high-level Pokemon in Kanto. At least not until I get to Mount Silver. So these gym leaders might still be kind of tricky. I don't anticipate Lieutenant Surge being tricky though. We're going to use our trusty Rhydon. It is under-leveled, but Raichu can't do much, and Earthquake one-shots after being hit by Quick Attack. Electabuzz could learn Ice Punch, it doesn't know it, so we knock it out after another Quick Attack. Electrode goes for Double Team, we knock it out. The next Electrode, we actually outspeed due to Quick Law. And the final Pokemon is Magneton. We do miss. We miss again. We miss a third time. Uh-oh. But we don't miss that fourth time. That was our last Earthquake. We still had Graveler with Magnitude, but pretty easy victory. Now, remember how I said there weren't high-level Pokemon until Mount Silver? There's one very notable exception. We can catch Snorlax. And the thing with Snorlax is that it's level 50. Now, if I allowed legendary Pokemon, those are pretty high level, but since I don't, this is a perfect time to use Master Ball, and we have a level 50 Pokemon and a Leftovers, both of which are pretty useful. It's time to use both those things to try and defeat Sabrina. So I'm gonna go for Body Slam. Espeon uses Sand Attack, which is annoying. I don't one-shot with Body Slam, and I then try to go for Rollout. Psychic's doing a lot of damage, and Mr. Mime uses Barrier, then Psychic, and then I miss with Rollout, which all of this is very annoying. It looks like I'm going to lose, but then I go for Rest. Psychic doesn't do a ton of damage, and I'm trying to actually use Snore. I don't quite knock out Mr. Mime, and then I actually misclick not once, but twice and use Snore in vain. I have to use Rest again, and eventually my special defense is dropped, which is pretty bad. But I do knock out Mr. Mime. There's only one Pokemon left, but it's a pretty good one. Alakazam Psychic with a crit and a special defense drop does a ton of damage. It knocks out Snorlax, so we've lost, right? Well, there is a Quick Law opportunity. It goes for Psychic, and I think we did lose. We have a level 40 Graveler, so maybe... Nah. Alright, well, that was really unfortunate. And unfortunate still, I think I don't have Snorlax yet. Great. I'm going to go do something else. I feel like just not battling Sabrina right now. I lead off with Tentacruel against Tangela. Now, I could get a higher level Tentacruel, but this one seems to be doing well. It knocked out the Tangela. And it's at this point I realized that this was a terrible strategy. I mean, Victory Bell just destroys my entire team. But the thing is, there actually were a lot of options here, like using Snorlax, like using a higher level Tentacruel you can get from surfing, even getting the Super Rod and getting some higher... I mean, sure, they're water Pokemon, but honestly, Quillfish would be better than Tentacruel. But you know what? I might be overthinking it. Let's just use Snorlax. So we have just the standard moveset. We're going to go for Rollout. Giga Drain doesn't do very much, and thankfully Sleep Powder misses. The second Rollout, Tangela's about half, and thankfully Sleep Powder misses again. I knock out Tangela. Jump Bluff Giga Drain doesn't do much, but unfortunately we miss. So we got to start Rollout all over again. The second hit does knock out Jump Bluff. Victory Bell goes for Sunny Day, but we put it in healing range, and if Rollout would have hit, we would have knocked it out, but we don't. So instead we have to start all over again. Thankfully, Victory Bell just goes for Acid. We're able to knock it out, and then the sun fades, Blossom sets up Sun again, and we knock it out with our very powerful Rollout. Pretty good. Could have been better, but a win's a win. Janine is typically the easiest of the Kanto gym leaders. I'm just going to go for Rollout again, and we two-shot Crobat, not bad. Next, Wheezing comes out. It goes for Toxic. We don't quite one-shot, and then it goes for Explosion, nearly knocking out Snorlax. and with that toxic damage, it looks kind of bad. But thankfully, after knocking out the second Weezing and the Ariados, all that's left is Venomoth. And even though it uses double team, we don't miss. And with very little HP to spare, we do knock out Janine's entire team with Rollout Snorlax. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Is this all we're going to do for the rest of the run? No. To beat Sabrina, we need to be a little bit more creative. I lead with Rhydon. I try for the Quick Claw. It doesn't work. I then go into Farfetch'd, which was a mistake. I meant to go into Snorlax. And see, now after Sand Attack, actually Body Slam one-shots. So I'm just going to keep it in here, which is fine. We two-shot Mr. Mime. Actually, this might just work. We miss with the first Body Slam, and then Alakazam sets up Reflect, but we paralyze it, so as long as we hit again... Oh, there's Recover, so we need to hit another time. We should be good. Wait, there's Hyper Potion. We need to hit another time. But there we go. No rollout, still victory. Pretty good. All right, next what we're going to do is at night, you can fish with the Super Rod, and there's a chance of getting in multiple routes a level 40 Staryu. Now, if that's not good enough, in Crystal version, you can actually do this weird thing where if you talk to your mother and tell her you'd like to change it from daylight savings time over and over again, assuming you only have a couple contacts in your phone, in this case we need the contact for Fisherman Tully, he will eventually call us telling us he's got a Water Stone. This is not available in Gold and Silver, it's only in Crystal, but we are playing in Crystal, and thus we can get a Starmie. Now, to be fair, you can get the Water Stone from Bill's grandfather, but there's only one of them available that way, and it's only available in the post-game, which we're in. But this is a big reason why Crystal is easier for Nuzlocke and other such things, because you can do this before the post-game, and thus you could theoretically have a Starmie for the Elite Four. Unfortunately, the Super Rod is only available in Kanto, so we've waited till now to use a really good Pokemon. Now that we have Starmie, Misty's a little bit easier. We can lead with Starmie, and we can use Psychic, which Mr. Psychic gives us. It's a 2-hit KO. Against Misty's Starmie, I could have taught Thunderbolt, but I didn't want to waste my time getting all those coins. So instead, I'm going to switch in Snorlax. It does get confused, but even with Recover, it would be a 2-hit KO. I actually get greedy and go for Rollout, which was definitely a mistake, but thankfully I'm able to hit myself in confusion and thus knock it out with Body Slam. Quagsire uses Amnesia and then goes for Rain Dance, but it's a 2-hit KO from Snorlax. Finally, Lapras, I will use Rollout because it's weak to Rock. It's doing a lot of damage with crit Surfs. It almost knocks out Snorlax, but not quite. If it did, we could have swapped in Starmie, but Snorlax once again proving to be the MVP of the Kanto section of this team. We're actually almost done the Kanto gym badges. We have to battle Brock, who is weak to water for the most part. We use Surf on Graveler to one-shot. Then comes out Omastar. It's going to be a 2-hit KO unless I get a crit. Kabutops is going to be a 2-hit KO. It goes for Giga Drain. Doesn't matter. We knock it out. And nothing else is going to outspeed us. Starmie can easily just use Surf and knock out the remaining Pokemon. Very easy victory, and I don't anticipate Blaine, the 7th gym leader, is going to be much tougher. He leads with Magcargo. It's going to be an easy one-shot with Surf. The next Pokemon is Magmar. We do outspeed and one-shot with Surf. Rapidash is level 50, though. It outspeeds, hits with Fury Attack. We don't one-shot. Blaine uses a Max Potion. We still don't one-shot, but it looks like it might have been a speed tie, since we knock it out with Surf. And that is it for the easy gym leaders. We now have to battle Blue. By the way, you can see no Quick Law, it just was a speed tie. Blue has a varied team, and his Pokemon are at much higher levels. So this could be really tough. The most difficult battle we're going to have to face since the Elite Four. One of the toughest battles in the game, in fact. Well, in order to prepare, I caught a level 40 Lantern and taught it Thunderbolt. It doesn't one-shot Pidgeot, but it does two-shot. So that's pretty good. Next comes out Executor. I can swap in Farfetch'd. It's really just on the team to faint, and it faints to Solar Beam. Now, in order to knock out the Executor, I send out Tentacruel. I use Sludge Bomb. It goes for Solar Beam. I don't think it's going to knock me out. but it gets a critical hit, so it does. I now have to think about what I want to do. I send out Snorlax. Once again, it goes for Solar Beam, but because it's poisoned, I think Body Slam knocked it out. Alakazam uses Reflect, which is pretty bad. Then it uses Psychic, which doesn't do too much damage. I get the pretty clutch Paralysis and knock out the Alakazam with another Body Slam. Rhydon is not something I want to face with a Snorlax, so I swap into Lantern. It goes for Sandstorm. Sandstorm does not boost special defense, so I'm able to one-shot with Surf. Gyarados, I would one-shot with Thunderbolt, but it outspeeds me. It uses Hyper Beam though, and here's where if I had taught Staryu Thunderbolt, we could get an easy victory. Instead, I gotta swap in Snorlax. I don't get the Paralysis, and then Gyarados goes for full Restore, so I have to hit it with another Body Slam. Still no Paralysis. Hyper Beam has a 10% chance of missing, which it does. We get the Paralysis, but another full Restore, so it's not paralyzed anymore. However, and I didn't know this, it doesn't reset the speed drop. So we still outspeed Gyarados and actually knock it out without taking any damage. In fact, by the time Arcanine comes out, we're at full HP. It has to go for extreme speed because Gyarados set up Rain, and we can knock it out with Rollout. It's close, but it still worked, and we had Pokemon to spare. Blue was a first try victory, partially due to Lantern, one of my favorite Pokemon, but let's be real, mostly due to Snorlax. But will Snorlax be enough for Red? Red's a heck of a lot tougher. Blue's Pokemon are in the mid-50s. Red's in the mid-70s. This is going to be tough, and while there are powerful Pokemon in Mount Silver, they're not as good as Snorlax, and they're not nearly as powerful as Red's. So what am I going to do? Well, there's only one way to find out. So we have a bunch of new team members to introduce to you. But against Pikachu, we're going to lead with an old reliable Rhydon. After Charm, Earthquake doesn't do nearly as much as we'd like, but it's okay. There's not much Pikachu can really do to me. In Gen 4, it gets Iron Tail, and even though it uses that in the anime, it doesn't have anything other than Quick Attack. So after we get a crit, we can knock it out. Next comes out Espeon. I'm not going to sacrifice any of my Pokemon, so Rhydon, good work, but time to go. The next Pokemon I send out is Snorlax. It has good special defense, and it hits pretty hard. Psychic does over half. I'm hoping with Leftovers Recovery it won't be a 2-hit KO, but shockingly it was. So I need to use Starmie, which gets crit. And yeah, this doesn't really work. Mischievous, you might think, is a good matchup, but Mischievous is not for Espeon. So that went about as well as you might expect. All right, we can try this a little bit with some better luck. This time, Pikachu goes for Quick Attack right away, and so then I can knock it out a lot quicker. But I'm trying to think about what to do for Espeon. I think Snorlax is the right call. Also, look, it's a range. That's kind of cool. Anyway, Espeon knocks out Rhydon. Now I send out Snorlax. It uses Reflect. Hopefully we can paralyze it, but you can see how much Psychic does. It's definitely going to two-shot every single time. And okay, I need Mischievous for a red Snorlax. Time to rethink our strategy here. All right, so after a few more attempts, we're going to stick with the same strategy for Pikachu because it works pretty well. Might take a few Earthquakes, but eventually we are going to knock out Pikachu. Now, we're hopefully going to get a Quick Claw activation. We don't. Now we hopefully get a Paralysis. We do. So Reflect is up, which isn't good. Espeon actually still outspeeds, and we get a crit, which is probably the only reason we knock it out. Now comes out Red Snorlax, and this is what Mischievous is for. Snorlax actually can't hit a Ghost Pokemon. Now, I don't really have anything really good to use against Snorlax other than Pain Split, and it has Rest, which isn't very good. I can try to swap in my Snorlax to deal more damage and to get some Leftovers Recovery. I can try using Rollout, but unfortunately that doesn't work all that well since Snorlax wakes up and can knock me out. So progress, but we still have a really long way to go. All right, so I change up my strategy a little bit. We're still going to lead with Rhydon. That's pretty effective, but we're going to go for Rollout instead of Earthquake and try to get a Quick Claw 4th turn Rollout against Espeon. It doesn't happen here, but I can just reset and try again. If we get Charm, we have to reset as well. But this is a good way to get a lot of damage on Espeon. I'm not exactly sure how much damage. Oh, it knocked it out with a crit. Maybe the crit mattered, but that's really good. Now Venusaur comes out. We actually hit with a 5th turn because it goes for Solar Beam. It's going to heal after this, but this is exceptionally good. I send in Starmie because I think it's going to heal, and it actually doesn't. So all I have to do is use Psychic and knock it out. Now I have Curse on Misdreavus because that should knock out Snorlax. I do use Pain Split to gain back my HP. And then I try to knock it out quickly by swapping in my Snorlax. Unfortunately, it uses Snore and I get flinched, which is super unlikely. We are knocking it out slowly but surely. And with Protect, we're gaining a little bit more leftovers recovery. I swap back in Misdreavus and Snorlax is defeated. We only have 2 Pokemon to go. Now, Charizard I'm pretty scared of, so I'm just going to let Misdreavus faint. I'm going to send out Starmie or Lantern. I can't decide. I go for Starmie. I don't know if Wing Attack will knock me out. It goes for Flamethrower and almost knocks me out. Surf doesn't do enough. So I got to swap in Snorlax here. I go for Protect. It went for Fire Spin. That's pretty good. Flamethrower does a ton and I get the burn. That really stinks. I can't use Rest, so I'm knocked out. I have Magmar, but that's actually supposed to be for Venusaur, which we didn't actually use it. Wing Attack knocks it out, and now all I have left is Lantern. I do have Thunderbolt, and it goes for Fire Spin, which is pretty good. Thunderbolt's doing some okay damage, but it goes for Flamethrower, gets its own crit, and while that is significant progress, it still isn't yet a victory. We seem to have a good strategy. We just have to try again and again and get the good luck versus Pikachu. So we go for Rollout. If we get Charm, I realized it can work. It's just a little bit more annoying. A 5th turn Rollout does not one-shot Espeon, but it does come very close. I can tank Psychic and knock it out with Snorlax. Red will then swap in his Snorlax, and we're going to have to speed this part up because we use Curse and Confuse Ray. Very safe strats. I can swap in Snorlax a little bit and use Protect in order to gain back some HP. That's why I said Charm isn't a big deal, but just is kind of annoying. It just makes this battle take longer and, of course, a little riskier. But if all goes well, we will knock out the Snorlax, although it can take some time. And hey, the longer it takes, the more my Snorlax gains. So Snorlax is finally knocked out. Next comes out Venusaur. Just like last time, I don't really want to sacrifice anything else, so I just go for Confuse Ray and then Curse. It goes for Solar Beam, which is a 2-turn attack. I try to go for Pain Split, but it's too late. Venusaur knocks me out, but because I have Protect, there's really nothing it can do to me. I go for Rollout, thinking maybe I can knock out the rest of Red's team, but unfortunately, it just doesn't work out that way. Venusaur has set up Sunny Day, and we have a 5th turn Rollout coming against Charizard, but of course, we get burned, so we're going to knock it out with Rollout. That's pretty good. Unfortunately, that is it for Rollout, and that is it for Snorlax, as Blastoise hits with a 70% chance Blizzard. That's really annoying. And this is where this battle kind of just goes in Red's favor. We don't really have a good matchup for Blastoise. We can use Lantern, but Blizzard plus Surf knocks it out. We can try to use Starmie, which I don't have Thunderbolt for, but we just get it to half health, and then all I have left is Magmar. And even though Magmar is kind of speedy, it's no match for Blastoise and gets knocked out. We might want to use something other than Magmar here. Now, you might think that this would be a good thing, but we actually are in a bit of a frustrating point right now. Because we can pretty consistently knock out 4 or 5 of Red's Pokemon, but that 6th Pokemon, it's the one giving us problems. We're just going to speed through the very next battle. This time around, we actually get Blastoise before Charizard, and we are able to knock it out. The reason we got Blastoise is that Magmar actually did do something, and due to Confuse Ray, Lantern was able to do enough damage and knock out Blastoise with a crit. Unfortunately, even though I had Snorlax at fairly decent health, it still couldn't really do all that much to Charizard. Even though Rollout does 4 times, it's still nothing. And even though Starmie is super effective, Flamethrower still does a lot of damage. That was a crit, but even without a crit, it would be a 2-shot. And I don't really have any obvious solution to this. I must have tried like 50 more times, but although I could sometimes make it to the 6th Pokemon, I didn't come close to knocking it out. And as much as I tried, I ended up realizing the inevitable truth that I needed a new strategy. So, here's what I did. First thing you're going to notice, Rhydon is gone and replaced with Graveler. Graveler goes for Earthquake and can one-shot Pikachu. Then against Espeon, once again, we're going to try to use Quick Claw. But this time, it isn't Rollout I'm trying to hit with. It's a different move. And that move, it takes a while. Trust me, we'll get one eventually. That move, I mean, you can already see what it is, but I'm trying to build up the hype here. That move, come on, Graveler, make me look good here, is Explosion. And it does knock out Espeon, meaning one Graveler takes out 2 of Red's Pokemon. That's a really good ratio. Red will send out Snorlax next, and this time around, we have a bit of a new strategy for Mischievous. I don't love using accuracy moves, but better that than evasion moves, since accuracy only affects one Pokemon. In competitive, they see it as different, but it didn't really matter. We knock out Snorlax. Now we use Curse on Venusaur, and it's just going to knock us out with Solar Beam. Magmar will now come out and use Flamethrower. It doesn't quite one-shot, but thankfully Solar Beam doesn't either, and with Curse, we can knock out Venusaur. Blastoise will knock out Magmar, but introducing new team member Tentacruel that can use Toxic. I have the Gold Berry. I use Protect, and then I can try and use Giga Drain to rack up the Toxic damage and hopefully gain back HP. Unfortunately, I don't have enough leftovers. I do double Protect, which I need, and then we can send out Snorlax, once again go for Protect, and Toxic knocks out Blastoise. We have 2 Pokemon remaining. For Red's final Pokemon is Charizard. Flamethrower does a ton. We do not get the paralysis with Body Slam. We get one more attempt because of leftovers. We get a critical hit, but unfortunately, that's all we get. Charizard knocks me out, and Lantern is going to be the one to win if we can win. It goes for Fire Spin. I go for Surf. Red's already used up his healing item, so I think we win. Unless this... No way! Yes! I thought it crit, but it just did that much damage. We still won. 4 HP. Thank you, Lantern. What an ending to such an interesting run. We used a ton of different Pokemon. From Totodile to Wobbuffet to Red Gyarados to Electrode to Lantern, Rhydon. So many cool Pokemon we never use. Hopefully I can find a version for this in Emerald, because that would be probably really crazy. But for now, I have some more videos to make. Thank you guys for watching. Take care.